Okay, let's look at the new report URL feature. And this is an advanced feature, so you need to make sure that it's activated. And to see if it's activated, you can open up, go into view results and open up one of your reports. And you should see this box just above the print and PDF button and just below the details of the candidate or the individual here. If you don't see this button here, this box here, then this facility is not yet active on your site and you need to request that. So just contact People Maps and request it. Okay, so what it does is it creates the report as a URL, and I will show you why that's really useful and really important. So instead of downloading it as a PDF and then attaching it to an email and then sending it to let's say an interviewer, we're going to look at two scenarios. We're going to look at the first scenario we're going to look at is how this is used in recruitment and interviewing candidates. And the second scenario is we'll look at how it would be used in coaching and mentoring. So the first example is in recruitment. So let's say we've got two other people who are interviewing this candidate. So we would send those two people, the interviewers, this URL so that they can read about the candidate and, most importantly, they can make notes. So if you decide who's going to get this, so let's say it's Martin and Bob are both interviewing this candidate, then the next thing you want to do is go to Tools and Report URL Authorization. You have to add the people who will be allowed access to this report URL to your authorized list. So in this case, Martin and Bob are both going to be interviewing this candidate, so we want to add them both to this authorized list. And that means that when they try to open the URL, they'll be able to do so because they're on your authorized list. So if you send them the URL, which you can either do in two ways, you can simply click here and email it to them, or you can copy and add it to an email and send it to them that way at all. As long as they get this URL, which is unique, then they'll be able to access it. And it then brings them, so when they try to open that URL, it takes them to a page like this, and it simply asks them to enter their email address. And this must be the same email address that you have on your authorized list. So once they enter that, they will then, the report will then open up, and it looks like this. So it looks very similar to the standard report, but there's a couple of differences. The main one being that it has this notes facility, and each section has its own notes facility. So if we're still looking at the recruitment scenario first, let me take you to a note that we've made here just to show you how this might work. So during the interview, both Bob and Martin have made a comment on the managing others section. So either from something I've read in the report or from the interview experience that Martin and Bob have had, they've felt compelled to write this note. So Martin has said here, well, based on the job interview, I'm not sure I'm convinced that this candidate can manage people effectively enough. And Bob has also said, well, actually, I quite liked it. It's different from what we're used to, but maybe that's a good thing. So we're now starting to see, so Bob will be able to see Martin's comment, Martin will be able to see Bob's comment. So a lot of work and thoughts can be shared outside before you even get to a meeting to talk about that candidate in more detail. So very, very useful if you're recruiting, especially if there's more than one person involved in the interviewing and the recruitment decision. Very powerful feature. Now the other place that we would use this, of course, is in coaching and mentoring, whether that's you coaching your own staff or whether you're a consultant or a coach working with clients. And how that works, very similar, the same principles. But what you have to do then, of course, is you have to add the client, your client, which is the same person who's completed the questionnaire and whose report it is. You would add them to your authorized list, and then you send them the URL of their own report, and they can then make comments about their own report, which you can then see and reply to. And here's an example here. So in this case, let's say that Bob is the client, the person who did the questionnaire and whose report it is, and let's say that Martin is the coach or the mentor. So Bob is saying, okay, I'm looking at this gauge here that's about naturally uses a collaborative management style, scores 70, and Bob's saying, I strongly agree with this and would like to talk about this. So Martin is saying, well, that's interesting. Do you feel you currently get to practice a collaborative management style? So even before they meet, even outside of meetings and telephone conversations, they can actually start to build upon the personality report and use it as a framework for ongoing discussion and understanding to help both Bob and Martin form a deeper understanding of Bob and move things forward. So that's how it would be used in a coaching scenario. So again, very similar. You have to add whoever you want to access this report URL. Just make sure you go to tools and add them to your authorized list. So in this case, it would actually be the person who completed the questionnaire. Obviously that's different in a recruitment scenario.